Down. Hi, welcome to our second round of the Young Adults at Heart book discussion. Woo! Jazz hands, it's very quiet and very disorienting. We've decided to mute when we're not talking, so if we forget and there's dead air, I apologize. This month we read 3 Times Lucky by Sheila Turnage, which was a Newbery Award-winning book. So it is exciting. We all read it. And I am Jennifer, and I am a public librarian at a large library district in Indiana, but at a small branch. And Abby?
I'm Abby, and I'm a children's programming assistant at a small library in Connecticut. And I picked this book. I want to brag about it. I picked it. Okay. Moving on.
Hi, I'm Crystal. I'm an 8th grade social studies teacher at a relatively small district in Connecticut. Woo woo.
My turn. I'm Kim. I'm a children and teen librarian at a pretty small but fightin' library.
And I'm going to make us go around one more time. What are you drinking today? I am drinking rum, pineapple juice, and orange juice because I felt like I ran out of wine. That's why I'm drinking that drink. But it's really delicious, and I regret nothing.
I am drinking rum in some Arnold Palmer. He's pretty handsome, right?
Twisted tea. It's the end of a summer pack because now we're getting into fall, but the book was set in the summertime, so that's my justification.
I'm drinking Sam Adams Porch Rocker, which I have a porch, and it's glassed in, and now that it's fall, I sit on the porch. So I guess that's my justification for that.
Very nice. I like it. So we are missing our beloved Mylene today. She will be back for our next round. And her thoughts on the book were that she enjoyed it, and since she doesn't enjoy middle grade fiction, that's impressive. I think most of us in general enjoyed it. I had a couple of things. I don't usually like murder mysteries and mysteries, but even so, I really did enjoy this. And I also, I listened to the book. I didn't read it. I did the audiobook version, and that had a fabulous narrator, but I will talk more about that. So general impressions.
I really enjoyed it. I read almost exclusively middle grade mysteries, so it's exactly my genre and age group and everything. I had actually read the second book in this series, which is called Ghost of Tupelo Landing, I think. I don't have it in front of me, so I'm pretty sure that's what it's called because it was a Nutmeg Award nominee for this year, which is the Connecticut State Book Awards. So I read that, and I liked it so much that I wanted to read the first one, and I'm glad that people seem to like it. I really, really liked it.
I liked it a lot. I may or may not have read the whole book today, and by that I mean I read the whole book today, which I think is just going to be how I roll with this book club, because trying to keep up with like all of my schoolwork and stuff, I don't have a lot of me time, so this was my like all day me time. Woohoo! I really enjoyed it. I thought that the characters were really endearing, and yeah, it was a pleasant read for murder.
I don't know. I liked it. I thought it was cute. Like, it was, like, I don't read a lot of, well, not, okay, it's not that I don't read a lot of middle grade books because, like, my job requires that I read middle grade, but I don't know. Most of it, I kind of read it, and I'm like, like, this happened. But I read it. It was cute. I liked the military speak. I thought it was really adorable, and I just kind of held on to that, like, for the entire book. But I like murder mysteries, so that was really good because I find them really fun, which is a really awful way to describe murder mysteries, but like I just do because I want to know who did it. So, and I didn't guess who did it, and I may or may not have skipped like 30 pages because I was at the cider mill all day, and so I might have skipped a smidge in there so that I could finish it, but it's fine because I got all the important parts, so like I'm not that worried about it.
How do you know you got all the important parts if you skipped part of it? Kim!
I came in just in time to figure out who the murderer was, so I decided that, like, that's
All right,
fine.
that's fair.
Like, I came in time just to know who done it, so there we go.
Wait, this is important. Spoilers or no spoilers?
At this point, if you don't want to be spoiled on this book, because we were discussing it, I will say at this point, finish the book, pause the video, finish the book, and then come back to us.
So just a general spoiler alert. Spoiler alert!
Yes, I'd say that's pretty, I think that's fair. We've been very clear at this point. What because Kim and Abby both read mysteries. Crystal, do you read mysteries? Do you like murder mysteries? Or you're not?
I read one recently per Abby's recommendation, the Sweetness at the Bottom of the Pie, and she felt like it was like a similarly brilliant young lady character. So I was getting that kind of vibe a little bit from this character, but it's not a genre that I would typically indulge in, but I really liked it.
That, like, precocious kid detective is definitely, like, a mystery trope, which is one of the reasons why I like them. So it's not, like, I can definitely see where you would get from Flavia to Mo.
Do you identify with the precocious, brilliant child solving murder mysteries, or do you just like...
I figured it out. Because I don't really relate, but I figured out what it is. I like when kids pretend they have jobs. I like it it's like anytime you read middle grade mystery, like, you know how, like, Skeeter in this book is, like, a lawyer, and that I kind of relate to. Because, like, when I was in middle school, I set up a straight-up library in our basement and, like, made all, like, the kids I babysit for come to it. So that I relate to, but that I think is why I like it. I was talking to my roommate about it, and he was like, oh, yeah, like Recess, like the show Recess. All those kids had, like, their, like, job that they do at Recess. And it's, like, exactly like that. I also like a small town, which is also, like, a mystery trope. So I like that, too.
I loved that the kids had jobs, and I loved that the grown-ups in the book were just kind of like, yeah, and we're just going to help you out with these things. Like, they just completely, like, bought into it. We're like, no, we're gonna give you some information because this is legitimate. Like, you are a legitimate detective, and, like, you are a legitimate lawyer person. Like,
you are a really small business person, tiny business person.
Right, in, like, every sense of the term because you're 11. So, yeah, I thought that was really cool.
Is it my turn? I think it's my turn.
Yeah.
No, I did. I don't know. Let's face that. No, I did. Like, I did. I thought I liked that they all, like, had their things, and I mean, because it's a small town, then you kind of get, like, a better feel for the characters because they're, like, I guess they're closer to each other because the town's really small. So, like, there was, like, the cousin thing. Like, I've got a cousin that works here. I've got a cousin that works there, and they have, like, the, like, rumor mill. I thought that was really cute.
What is it called? Is it the Cousin Information Network? Is that what it was called?
Yeah, it was something really cute and really snazzy. But the thing I think about that, I think you find more of that, like, cute snazzy things. I see those more in books that take place, like, in somewhere south, like southern. And I think it's just because they naturally say, like, random strange things like that. Like, my family that's from State Line, Mississippi, they just have they say the strangest things. And I'm like, what does that even mean? But it's just like those, like, loquiisms for down there. And I find I like books sometimes that take place in the South because of that. I think with my mysteries, though, like, I like scary mysteries. Like, I just like scary things, like scary movies, scary TV shows. So, like Skeleton Creek, like the example, is one of my, like, favorite middle grade mysteries, but it's also, like, freaking terrifying. So I'm not even sure why it's a middle grade book. I don't know if any of you read it, but I thought this book was really cute and, like, super sweet and kind of reminded me of Harriet the Spy. I think, but I typically, like, slide toward the I don't know, scarier things, I guess, with my mysteries. I don't
I
know.
have a question, library ladies. Now, because I'm not super well versed on a professional level with like young adult literature, so this character was a rising sixth grader. So what was the target age group? Because doesn't it usually skew like if the character is 11, then the target age group would be younger, right?
Well, I went into there's this what's that Facebook group? The one that Jen, you invited me to. There's something like some Facebook group for young adult librarians, basically. And I asked that
Teen
question.
Services Underground, was that the
Yeah.
one?
Yeah, no, not children's. There's another one. Oh, maybe you guys are in this. Oops, I'm gonna get on that. But there's children's underground, and then there's a teen one. And I posed that question. I was like, what?
Storytime Underground.
Yes, okay, a Storytime Underground is the
Yeah.
children's one. So I went into the young adult one, and I asked the question. I was like, at what point in your libraries do you consider something young adult? Because I always kind of considered grades 6 to 8 middle grade, so like anything like J, Fic, whatever, and 9 to 12 young adult. But apparently I was one of like 2 people. Everybody else considers like grades 6 and up to be like young adult. But typically those books still fall in like the juvenile section of our library, so I don't know exactly how that works. But I did ask.
There's a lot of overlap in that like middle school age, because a lot of middle grade books, if you like look on them, they'll be like for 3rd to 8th grade, which is just like a huge span. So I feel like 6th and 7th graders in particular read from both sections. They'll read like the harder, more advanced middle grade, and they'll read the kind of lighter YA stuff. And so they're actually the hardest people to find books for, I think, because you really have to look all over for them.
So like, sorry. I was
Sorry.
just, where do we think we put this guy?
I'd say it's a solidly middle grade book, but sometimes also, and I know this is like kind of a sideways step into library land, sometimes where it's put on the shelf only has to do with what budget it was bought under, and that's a weird thing that just happens sometimes. So you'll have like a couple copies of like a Harry Potter book in the juvenile section, but then you'll have some in the fiction section because they were bought under different budgets. And sometimes it's also that you want sometimes they'll get grabbed and put into a young adult booked section, even if they skew slightly younger, because it's a more highly browsed section and you just want it off the to go out and have people read it. So it's like it gets a little bit fuzzy. Sorry if it was creaky. My door opened. So I actually don't. I'm not a huge fan of the AR system, the accelerated reader system, but it lists this book as middle grade. And it puts it at a 3.9 for the book level, which is it's like the Lexile score. So it's about like a 4th grader would be reading it. So it's a little bit younger, but their system of evaluation is it's imperfect. And I take issue with how they sort graphic novels a lot of the time. So I usually take just a bucket of salt with anything that they're going to list. But it depends. Usually you put. I'd say usually you put. It depends on your community sometimes too, because you'll put something that's a middle grade book as opposed to an upper grade book, based on whether there's a romantic relationship. Sometimes and that's another dividing line, because even if because this was fairly violent and there was, again, spoilers, but there was like the abusive father figure, and parts of this book were really intense and really scary, but I'd say it's a solidly middle grade. Like I would recommend this to a 4th grader or 3rd grader, maybe not a 2nd grader because of if they were a high enough reading level. So
it would also be a good family read aloud.
Absolutely, I agree with that. So the audiobook, can I just go low about the audiobook for 2 seconds? No, Crystal, you have a thing. You talk and then I'll talk about the audiobook because I have a lot of feelings about it.
No, I was just going to say thanks. Thanks, ladies.
So I'm going to go about the audiobook now. The audiobook narrator, I actually just found out that the audiobook narrator passed away. So she's not alive anymore, but she did the most phenomenal job narrating this book with, and like gave such like life to all of the characters, and it never got too accenty or too charactery, but the accents were phenomenal for it. And the she was so cute because it's all from Mo's point of view, but she's a Mo LoBeau riding sixth grader, and she's so cute when she's like saying it. And it was a great audiobook. So I would definitely recommend this for like a road trip for a family. It would be super good to like listen to the whole thing because it's beautifully put together, and the pacing is fairly, like, there's enough to keep you get you interested in the beginning of the book, and then it follows through pretty solidly. It's a solid read, and it works beautifully as an audiobook. So I liked it.
I actually, one of the issues I did have with it was that there did seem to be parts that seemed to kind of drop off in terms of like we're doing a lot of waiting around, and I think it was meant to build suspense, but I was just like, no, I need another thing to be happening, please. So I wonder if that would be solved with the entertainment factor of having it read by someone fun.
Yeah, it felt very even to me, and it's always interesting to see how it is different. I would read this, I would reread this, and I would actually read it to see if it's different. She just built the characters very, very strongly, though. So was everyone in this book, all the main characters, were they all white, by the way? Like, were they just all white? Because I thought that they were.
Yes, probably.
I think so. I think it's one of those things where it wasn't, some of them weren't specified, so they might have defaulted.
Oops. I think there's all this like jazz going on right now about like when people do describe their characters or when they don't describe their characters, or the words they use, or how far they go, and what people technically default to. And if they default to white, unless someone like seriously describes what their character look like, or like even if they don't describe like the race or whatever of their character, if they have green eyes, we automatically like make an assumption. So I didn't catch, like I wasn't, like I typically don't look for it, but I didn't catch any type of description for most of the characters, which I think kind of defaults, even though it was a book that took place somewhere slightly more southern. Was it North Carolina, which is technically south? I think like not as south as I'm used to. When I think south, I automatically think like my family in State Line, Mississippi, and no one even knows where that is. But I think they were. I got the impression, but I don't know for sure. Did you guess that, Crystal?
Yeah, I was just thinking about it, and again, trying to remember a specific description, and the only thing is like some characters being large or some characters being slender, or, you know, so there were none of those specific descriptions that would gear towards a specific race, but I think that I pictured all of the characters as white.
Because I was picturing, you know, the little girl in the book is the Schmeck Day one, but the home, it just got made into the movie with the alien. But I was picturing that little girl as Mo, and then they described her and it didn't match, and so that was like, that made my brain click over to it, which was frustrating. Dale is definitely described as white, like his family, like he has like super blonde hair, and they talk about him being pale in the black shirt.
And they freckles. They do mention freckles.
And I think he gets called white trash too.
I think so too. I think
he did.
Yeah, because it's like the whole family. But
yeah, and he was a blonde kid with a black shirt. So yeah.
I think I remember it like, was it Spooky, the spooky kid? That's what they referred to him as, which I really enjoyed. I love that he was like little baby goth boy. Like, I really enjoyed that about him.
Yeah, that's exactly how I pictured him. Sorry, but I pictured him as like a little goth kid. Like even though he was only wearing a black shirt, and I don't think they ever mentioned his pants or shoes or hair. Like, you know, they didn't mention his pants, but I assumed the pants were like tight black skinny jeans. Like that was just kind of what happened there, and I enjoyed it.
And like 10 years ago, they would have been like baggy jeans with all the zippers on them. But yeah, that's how I pictured. Yeah, I love, so also like that whole family was really interesting and so like beautifully built. Like the mother character. Oh, sorry, and I meant to ask about, so the adults. So they really feed into like their really like enabling the kids' imaginations and encouraging them for like the jobs and treating them like little business owners. But they also like definitely there's the no, you cannot go out and there are consequences, which I thought was really cool, like that they definitely the adults hit that place where they're just like, nope, you're a child, which I thought was really interesting that she kind of like played with that, because it happened a couple of times where the adult in the story would just be like, nope, can't do that.
But then the kids were like, whatever, I'm going to do it anyway. I feel like there was so much like sneaking out and like sneaking around where I'm like, wait a second. There's like a murderer on the loose and you just like snuck over to your friend's house. Like, how the heck did that just happen? And where was the adult? But I mean, probably dealing with her drunk husband. Like, that's probably where the adult was. Like, so that made a little bit more sense as more of that story unfolded. But you're right. To me, it seemed like the adults were like trying to lay down the law, and the kids were like, nah, we got some mysteries to solve, and we've got some law to practice, and we're just gonna do that anyway.
we made our one business card, so we need to hold on to it for the desperado detectives.
That was the other thing. There were several times I found myself laughing out loud to this book and to her like way of presenting things and things like that. Like, no, I didn't have time to make more business cards. Like, I only have the one. Can I have it back? Like, and I felt silly because I was sitting at a coffee shop, and I was sitting, actually for a while, I was sitting with someone that I knew, but we were each like doing our independent things, and I just kept laughing out loud to this book, and he just kept looking over at me like, oh, are you crazy? Yeah, I am a little crazy, but this book's funny, so.
When it comes to the family dynamics, too, and the grown-ups, I think she did such a good job of really hitting that specific feeling when you're, like, really close with another, with your friend's family, but, like, you're still not in their family, so stuff's going on, and you're kind of uncomfortable, like, there's arguments going on or different dynamics that you're close enough to your friend to hear about them, but not close enough to be, like, comfortable being just, like, around. And I think that's such a specific feeling, especially for, like, younger kids, that I think she just, like, hit it totally perfect.
And also where with Dale, how she comes in and she knows, like, she's seen the bruises, she is, like, aware that he is an abusive parent, but she still is like, she's ready to like physically defend him, and Dale is like, he will straight up kill you, don't do it. And it's a very interesting, because she's so confident, and they managed to not let her, like, the character doesn't lose her confidence, but you are, as a reader, are super aware that is really dangerous. And like I was like, oh God, please don't, no, I don't know where this is going. It's a middle grade book. But like it could have very easily like ended in her dying, and I was very stressed out for that whole sequence. But how she didn't out, and I liked that Mo was self-aware enough to check herself after that she was like, I did not know, and she apologized, and that they were able to, like, they let the relationship, they let them fight, and they let them make up, and I thought that was a really healthy way to do that in an unhealthy situation. So.
And those storylines don't get dropped going forward into the in the series. It's not like a one-shot thing. Like, there's definitely consequences for all of the actions that take place in this book, which, reading it second, I really appreciated knowing that going forward.
Would you recommend to read this out of order?
It's weird because in the second book, so at the end you find out that the Colonel has like this whole memory. He's finding out his identity again. So they're dealing with that. So there's a lot more of the Colonel. There's a lot more of Miss Lana. Crystal has my book. There's a lot more of them and kind of them figuring out how they relate to one another and how Mo fits into all of that too, and him coming to terms with that. So it was almost a little confusing because I didn't have the setup of this whole story of how he like gets his memory, or he's starting to get his memory back or whatever, or not even get his memory back, but like learn more about himself. So that was confusing out of order. But I did like reading this story, having experienced the characters without so much exposition about them, kind of just having dived in and then going back and like learning more. I wouldn't recommend reading it out of order, but it definitely doesn't affect your enjoyment of it to read it out of order.
I loved her being in love with Lavender. Like, that was, in terms of like relatable moments in the book, I was like, oh my goodness, there were so many of my friends' older brothers that I was just like gaga in love with. And I love that she just like so fervently is like, and we're going to get married and we're going to adopt 6 kids and they're all going to be twins. And like she has this like very set plan, which I thought was just, that was very relatable to me. I was like, oh yes, I felt all of these feelings and journaled about so many of them. Like
that's relatable to like current day Abby.
Yes, I love that. I liked Lavender. I'm not gonna lie, I thought he was gonna be gay. I don't know where that came from. Like, I don't know. I thought Lavender and Sam were gonna be love, and I don't know. I don't know where that came from. But then they were twins, and I was like, oh. So I'm not gonna lie. Like, I was a little upset for like, I don't know, like a good chapter or two before I got over it, and I like went on about my day. But yeah, I thought that was a pretty relatable moment. But like, if the second book is, well, I'm saying this, but I might be lying. But if the second book has a lot of the Colonel in it, I'm not gonna lie, like I probably completely and utterly love it because the relationship between the Colonel and Mo was literally my favorite relationship, like in the entire book. So when he was like, I don't know, like permission to enter, soldier, and like, you know, contemplating popping popcorn, like, you know, and I don't know, just like their whole like lingo and their entire relationship was like so lovely and personable. Like obviously like he was very important to her and she was very important to him in the 3-day rule, and like when he like may or may not have missed it and you were like, oh my god, but then he called and like everything was great. Like their relationship was probably the best thing out of the entire book for me. And not to say that I didn't love it, because Crystal, I also had those laugh out loud moments. Like I was reading and I was like, what, that's hilarious. But for the dynamic between the two of them, which like from the outside could probably seem very informal, but like when she would jump up and defend him from the detective, like jump on her, what was it, a Pepsi box or something, and defend him like when the detective was asking too many questions.
The Pepsi crate.
Yeah, the Pepsi crate. The Pepsi crate was also my favorite thing. Like she would just hop on there and like be all tall and super fierce. That was my favorite thing, like in the entire world. So, and one of my laugh out loud moments was when the Colonel was like, "I'm a lawyer," and I laughed. I put the book down and I laughed for like a good 4 minutes because it was hilarious. But I definitely loved that dynamic, and like snaps for all the way, because it's very hard to find a father-child relationship that's really fantastic, despite the fact that he wasn't the biological father. That's not something you see all the time, and I thought it was like brilliantly, beautifully done.
I hope I'm not leading you astray in my remembering of the second book, but I do. What resonated with me was a lot of the grown-up stuff in the second book. So at least I know that there's little moments for you there anyway. And I feel the same way about Miss Lana and just like her attitude about everything. And you can really see that Mo's personality is so influenced by being raised by these two weird grown-ups. Like they're like really not like your standard parental figures, and just her being so out there and like her costumes and wigs and all of that. I really love that.
I also loved that there was a bit of a lead up to her relationship with the Colonel, like that it started out where you weren't sure, where he seemed like this very stern figure. At least to me, the way that I was reading it, it seemed like it was almost because he was out and then he came in and he, you know, didn't really talk. Like this whole thing, it kind of led it up to being him kind of like a menacing figure, at least the way that I was reading it. And then that popcorn interaction, like it kind of broke all of that, and you had this moment of like, oh no, he's precious. Oh no, wait, they're so in love. See? Like that was really nice to me, because it kind of like shattered the previous perception of this character, and I thought that was really, like, that was a good like build up moment for me.
I thought the same thing. everyone was like, every time the Colonel was mentioned, everyone would like stop and they were like, ooh, the Colonel. Which I'm glad I know. For the record, I didn't know that was how you spelled Colonel until like 2 years ago. I'm gonna be totally honest. I must have slept through all of history class to not know there was that random L.
Didn't you play Clue?
Aren't you in a military family?
That was Chief. Thank you. I can spell the Chief.
Sorry, wrong.
Yeah. We had Chiefs. We all have colonels over there. But back to like, back to family dynamics. Okay, so I thought that their family relationship was perfect, but I'm just wondering, and maybe it's just me, like I don't know, and like my particular like family situation, but I was sort of like, it threw me for a loop when, who was it, Dale, like BFF Dale, when he like kind of like snapped and freaked out on Mo for a hot second about how she was looking for her mom, and he was like, you've got a family right here, and blah 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 blah, and I'm sick and tired of listening to you talk about her, and yada yada yada. I wasn't mad about it, like I didn't think that, but like when I hit that, I was like, whoa, I don't even, like I think I didn't even know how to feel. Like I thought her relationship like with Miss Lana and the Colonel and even like grandmother, whatever, like however you say her name, grandmother, whoever, Miss something,
Grandmother
something,
Miss
something.
Lacey.
Yeah,
Grandma
there were
Lacey.
like 4 or 5 parts of her name in there. So, excuse me, it was quite honest that like it was quite obvious that that town had kind of become her surrogate family. But, you know, I kind of liked that she was writing to her upstream mother the entire time. So, like, and I thought that was a cute name for it in the bottle. It's like there were very small nuances in this book that I thought were, like, glorious. Like, they were fantastic. But I was drawn up short. Like, I love her relationship with, like, the Colonel and Miss Lana. And, you know, if the mom showed up, like, in book 3 and tried to take, you know, Mo away, I'd be heartbroken and probably mad about it. But I was really drawn up short when he, you know, kind of like snaps on her, and I'm just kind of wondering how you guys, like, what you guys felt when you reached that part. Like, I didn't know what to feel. I wasn't mad. But I was lost and confused, I guess, for a second.
I think that Dale's family situation definitely gave him different insight into the grown-up relationships going on, because he, you know, checked Mo for like being like maybe a little bit ungrateful about like all the people who come together and like love her, and also he stands up for the bully girl, Anna. It's an A name, because they call her Attila.
Yeah, let's just call her
he
Attila.
stands up for Attila because like he knows that her mom is like a bully to her, and that's why she's a bully, and he sees how grown-ups actions affect children, and I thought it was very very true to his character and his experience to be the person kind of calling out that kind of nonsense, like, hey, it's okay for you to be sad about this situation, but like recognize that you have people who love you, and that's like a really powerful thing.
I mean, I cried a little. Not that this should be any great surprise to folks that know me, but it was just this moment where you realize that, like, he has also found this surrogate family in her, you know what I mean? Like, in his biological mother and brother, certainly, but also in her as, like, a sister-like figure, and in the town, you know, in the same way that she has. And, again, I agree with what you were saying, Abby, but just that moment where you realize it's a moment where you realize how broken he is in a way. And like, of course, this kid going into 6th grade, dealing with all of this stress at home, like, I'm surprised he didn't lash out at her soon. You know what I mean? They don't, at that age, you don't necessarily know how to handle those feelings and handle those emotions. And Jen, I think this is what you were talking about earlier with, then I think that it was handled really nicely, how then she like gave him some space and then came over to like apologize, and I think that was a really healthy way of handling it. But in terms of how I felt when I came upon it, it was just like overwhelmingly heartbreaking to like see this character who I have grown to love. Like, he's just such like a lovable character. That's the one thing, a standout from the book in general, is that these characters are all very, with the exception of like the bad guys, they're all very endearing characters. So yeah.
I think also he he processes like an abuse survivor too, though. Like he's very like he wasn't going to say anything until he couldn't take it anymore. And I think that was like how he had clearly internalized all of her talking about this all the time, and then it exploded, which was very similar to how his family like where his father deals with things, which is like how, do you know what I mean, you model your behavior based off of the adults in your life. And so when he did that, it was totally on character. It was very on point as far as where he was. But the I also liked, because there was a really nice, I think it was at the end of the book, I'm not positive, a revelation where she had a moment where she thought about how her quest for her upstream mother was affecting the Colonel and Miss Lana, like where she was like, oh, does this upset them? And she got to like, and he definitely made that happen too, how she was pulled out of herself, and like that was like a big like I'm growing as a character push that happened because of Dale, because she's like a super brilliant, precocious baby girl, but like she was still like super unaware about other stuff that was going on in the adults' lives, and I think that made her aware of that, and she got, like, you got to see her applying that to other things. It was cool to be inside her brain. She wrote beautifully for a rising sixth grader writing as an adult. Like, that was really impressive.
The whole time I was reading her like journal entries, I said, oh my goodness, if half of my students could write like this, my job would be much easier. I'm like, my current 8th graders, no.
Was it the Piggly Wiggly Chronicles? Was it the Chronicles or the Piggly Wiggly Diaries?
I think it was Chronicles.
I think it was too. It had a gravitas to it that I don't. But yeah, I love that. And yeah, I thought so it's not an actual town either. It's a fictionalized, she made up, is it Tupelo Landing? And there's going to be is the 3rd book out in the series yet?
I haven't checked recently. I meant to check it before we chatted. I think if it's not out, it should be out soonish, I think.
There was like press burblings on the website. I love the artist for the cover. I don't it's a full spread, like the image for the, I just wanted to check that I'm not muted. We're good. There's a full spread for like it's an entire like beautiful painting. I don't know if it's actually paint, but the artist did an amazing job, and he did he did all 3 of the covers, and they're super, super gorgeous. So, but that's what made me, that was when I looked at the other covers, the Mo character has a high ponytail, and I was just like, that's not what I pictured her hair looking like. And so that was where I was like, that's a lot of hair. I feel like Mo would have short hair. I feel like Mo would not have time for long hair, but that was also just me, so.
At some point, doesn't she also talk about her hair being like out of control? Maybe I'm making that up. I pictured her with like.
She talks about her hair being big and her being mad at it for being like for acting up or something. No, I totally remember that.
Yeah, so I picture her with like big, curly, like Hermione Granger hair, but Hermione Granger in the book, not in the movie, because her hair in the book is much more out of control.
Not Emma Watson.
Right.
Emma Watson hair, because it's just like you have a team of professionals working on making you, perfect human being, look even better. So yeah, that was not Hermione Granger hair.
I think that like at one point, didn't she describe it like in front of her? I've read a lot of books recently, so it could have been from something else. But I feel like at one point she was like hanging down, and I pictured it like she talked about it like falling like in front of her face or something like that.
Yeah, I think so. I think maybe I remember that. I thought, but visually, as like purely from like a selling the book visual standpoint, it looks like it's the silhouettes, so it looks like that like classic mystery, like it makes you think mystery when you look at the shapes of the characters because of Nancy Drew, of the Hardy Boys, of Harriet the Spy. Like it's got that like, or like even like the sweetness at the bottom of the pie, it's like an icon, isn't it? It's a blacked out. It's very specific, that like mystery set in a like it's a very specific visual cue that you're getting from the cover, and I think it worked, and they're like super gorgeous. But that's not how I pictured her hair, and it's so picky. It's such a weird thing to be picky about.
Where'd Kim go?
We lost Kim.
Oh no. That makes me sad.
I invited her again. I'm hoping that she's just having internet problems. That's why I went completely dead and vacantly looked in the upper left corner of the screen.
What did you guys think about the mystery aspect of it?
Yay, Kim! Whoa, it's Kim's face.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. I don't think I want anyone to see any of this. I don't know. I got kicked off, and now I'm connected via my phone.
Oh, well, that's impressive.
It's sad. Just now I have to hold the phone. But you're the only one I can see, so I don't know what that means.
Can you still mute yourself, or do you need me to do it?
I can still mute myself, but I can't see anybody else.
Oh, no!
Yeah, I don't know. Are we? Oh.
Well,
If someone else talks, can you?
Oh, wait. Never mind. There they went.
Now we're all just going to talk at the same time.
Yep.
Oh. That.
And it's
Chaos.
like letting... What is this about to do?
It's going to be multiple Kims. Kims within Kims. Well, if you want to chime in, feel free. Oh, there's another Kim.
Okay.
Oh my god. It's Kimception. This is amazing.
Okay. There's one. All right. Okay.
Hashtag
real Kim.
Kimception.
That's a doppelganger.
I think technology is the problem and not the solution. I think this. Okay. All right. I'm done. I'm muting myself. We're gonna pretend like that never happened.
While we lost you, I had asked how everyone felt about the mystery aspect, like the actual mechanics of the mystery aspect.
I'll talk there. I think that I don't read a ton of murder mysteries, but I have read several and more since I've been in charge of the adult book discussion. The mystery actually was the only thing that felt uneven to me about the pacing of the book. Like it was very like there was little trickles of information and things were seeded, like the dollar, like the thing about the money and the serial numbers. That was like I think that was built up fairly well, but then like where I felt like that was like the weakest part of it. You can answer this later, but are the sequels tighter as far as the mystery goes?
I didn't notice the pacing being as off in the sequel. It has a different flavor to it because it's more of like a ghost story mystery, so it has more of that traditional build-up suspense kind of thing happening. But I did feel like the mystery was kind of ancillary to like painting a picture of this, like fun town and all these characters. It almost seemed like a device being like, here, this is the best way for me to show you these characters in this environment.
Which is kind of interesting. So Crystal, do you want to add something to that? Sorry, I just like jumped on this. So I just found out that the first, the boxcar children, like kids, orphan kids, live in a boxcar. That's basically it. And then they get adopted by a rich guy. So, spoilers for the boxcar children. But yeah, I don't know if it counts. It's been a while. But the first boxcar children is apparently, it's not a mystery. It's like a road story. There's no mystery at the core of it. They're not solving anything. Because we had a copy in our branch that was in just like the juvenile fiction. And I was like, why isn't this with all the other boxcar children? It's because they're in mystery. And it's not a mystery book. And I was like, but they need to live together. So it's like there's weird shelving things that happen with genres sometimes. But I actually think I would have liked this story better if there was no mystery at the for it, and then it became a mystery series. But I can understand not wanting to do that from like an author's perspective.
One of the things that I had a really hard time with is that Deputy Marla. The way that I was picturing her the whole time is as our school resource officer. So I just inherently trusted her because like that's who I was picturing in my head. And she's like the most delightful woman and she's really great and like great for our school. And then when that all like went down, I was like, oh no, I'm never going to be able to look at this person the same way again. But in terms of like the other mystery, so I obviously didn't see that coming. But in terms of the other mystery elements, I think that there was a lot, when things started coming together, it was like a whole like dump of information. And I was like, who's cousin with who now and what? why? And I found that very overwhelming and hard to follow. And because I probably would have gone back and reread that section, except for I was, reading the whole book today, so I want to make sure I read it by the time we were all hanging out. But that felt very overwhelming and like a lot of information all at once that I couldn't really process in the amount of time.
I think that mysteries, by their nature, are a little hard to like wrap your head around, so like you're watching a mystery or you're reading a mystery and someone like breaks into someone's house and you're like, that's not a real thing, that's not someone does in real life, like you're like, or they hear like a creaking in the basement and they go down and check it out, you're like, it's not a thing, no one does that, people leave, people call 911 or like their neighbor, what I'm saying? So like by their nature, mysteries, it's very hard to suspend your disbelief sometimes, like, or you just have to like let it go, like you just have to like move on from the fact that that no sane person, or maybe just me, like I'm not, if there's a creaking happening upstairs, I'm just gonna leave and sit in my car.
Have you heard the thing where it's the main character and the abbreviation for describe it happens a lot with like romance novel heroines, where it's they're too stupid to live, like that's what the label is for that, where you're just like, no, like you would have died like 5 minutes ago, like you're not
like I just watched The Visit and I'm like, that like the crappy movie The Visit, the kids like visit their grandparents, and I was like, I would have left this house like an hour ago, like via movie time, like I'd have been done. So what I'm saying? So but with this book, it was a lot harder to just let it go. What I'm saying? And like that was my problem. So like there are these kids, the cousins, and like they can get you the freaking serial number. Like I was like, I'm having a problem with this. So I ran into that a lot. Like I'll let a lot go. Like I'm a very forgiving author. Like if the characters are a little hard to relate to, but you've got a like banging plot and like I really love your storyline, I'll let it slide. Or or if it's the other way around, like I'll let it slide. But like it was very hard to let go. I'm like, you are 11. I think I would have bought this more if the characters were a little older. Oh, Jen's gone. Not that I would want that, but okay, that's all I really had to say about that.
No, I was feeling that way too. Oh, I was feeling that way too. But then I kept switching back in my brain to the fact that I am a grown adult lady, and that if I was reading this at 9 years old, I think I probably wouldn't have even noticed. Not that I wouldn't have noticed those things, but I think I would have been much more willing to suspend my disbelief and just let those things go a lot easier because, yeah, of course I would want the adults to be on my side. Of course I would want them to let me out of my house in the middle of a hurricane. Because, like, that part, too, when there was like, oh, yeah, you could, okay, I guess you can just go with the colonel
like
to where this murderer is. Bye.
And they, like, chainsaw, oh, we have to stop and chainsaw some trees out of the way. Like, they live in a town where they're clearly, like, 5 minutes away from everywhere. It probably took them 45 minutes to get there. Because they had to stop and chainsaw trees out of the way.
Yeah, and normally, and like I'm very cognizant of reading something, and I think I just naturally, really, honestly, and truly do have the mind of a 17-year-old. Like, I really don't think I will ever progress past that, and I think that's just it. That's just the way it's going to be. So typically, I'm like, fine. But even, and I mean, maybe not, but like, even as a small child watching Harriet the Spy, I'm like, really, Harriet? Really? You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, even then, like, I was like, like I'm gonna let this go, but that's not a real thing. And then I tried to do a Harriet the Spy, and it didn't work out as well. So then I knew you were, But
I was just rereading that. I was just rereading that the other night. I was at my grandma's house, and I didn't bring a book with me, and I was reading it there because it was one of the books that she had. And she sneaks into a dumbwaiter. She sneaks into a dumbwaiter, and like. That
sounds like a way to die. Like that sounds like a setup for a CSI episode.
Yes. A small child was spying on her neighbor and died in a dumbwaiter shaft. Oh my goodness.
I'd watch Shamar Moore investigate that on Criminal Minds. I'm not gonna lie, and I'd probably enjoy it.
I'd watch Shamar Moore investigate anything.
That's amazing. You're amazing, Krista.
But yeah, Jen, you disappeared so for like a hot second. But we were just talking, like I'll suspend my disbelief for a lot, like for literally just about anything. Like I read The Fifth Wave and I was like, that's how we're all gonna go. But like I really did. I'm pretty convinced. But like that was my issue with the mystery. I was like, I can't
get behind this. Like, it's just like somewhere along the way you crossed a line. I'm not sure where, but somewhere along the way you lost me, and I couldn't get back on board with the mystery aspect.
Something I did find really believable is that that they just assumed that the adult that was spying on them was like a police officer. That's like a very like kid thing.
That
like,
is.
Oh, this adult is existing to look out for me. This adult is completely trustworthy by just virtue of the fact that they're a grown-up, and they didn't even think to be like, hey, someone's been following me around. He's with you guys, right? Like, no, none of that. Also, I did not trust Deputy Marla from the start. She seemed fishy to me.
I love that Dale immediately was like, con artist, like, you are my uncle. Like, he just clocked her immediately and was just like, really? She is playing you. Like, I loved that he just like, and he was like, I'm judging you for falling for this. I mean, we can bring it up later, but no, Mo, no.
I forgot that his uncle's like doing 3 to 5. Like, Dale's got like a family. Like, it's not just dad. I had forgotten about that. Like, he's
He's got a family, like he's in the mob or something. I'm sorry, that was just hilarious. But yeah, the poor kid, like, he's got it, or had it. I mean, I guess it's better now. His mom was like, I'm tired of this crap. But yeah, Dale had it rough. Like, my heart went to him and his brother. And like even for a second, like, once I knew that Lavender wasn't gay, like when he wasn't living at home, I was like, his dad didn't like. I don't know why I held on to that for like a really long time, but I just did. I don't know. Yeah.
Now, Abby, obviously you can't chime in on this one, but like, do we think Lavender's now going to move back home? Like, is he going to now become part of that?
I 100% don't remember, so I can chime in and say that what I was going to say was that I really liked that Lavender had his own space, and it was kind of like a safe space for them to go, you know, for Dale to go, for them to, you know, he had made a way for himself that was like close enough that he could keep an eye on everybody, but far enough away that also kind of provided like an outlet for everyone.
Also, amazing precocious baby coming up with selling ad space on that car. Like, awesome. Nicely done. Like, that was so, and it was so, like, realistic, because I was like, how the heck? But it was, like, about the community coming together and a little con artistry, and I just loved it. Like, it was perfect. Like, it really just, like, and it was, like, and that one completely, I did not see that coming, and I thought it was just super lovely, and how, and I love that he did pay them back. I thought they had such a really lovely, healthy relationship. I loved Lavender and Dale. Like, I loved their like little bro relationship, and that they went to the garage. I thought that the garage was super cool, and I love how she was like, he's depressed. Like, that's why he's not cleaning.
I also really liked the whole concept of the Azalea women. And that, like, she specifically takes advantage of their, like, proper sensibility to, like, oh, but that's, like, a tacky area of the car. And, like, she talks about the Azalea women in the other book, too. And I just think that's so specific. And, like, in this one, it's kind of specifically Southern. But I know, like, that can translate to a different, I don't know, I feel like in New England, it's, like...
It's the ladies who lunch, like...
Yeah, exactly. Like,
the red hat... like ladies that, yeah.
Although some of those red hat ladies can get down, so.
They're little hellions, the Red Hat Society. That's a plan. Like, I'm excited to do the red hat and the purple. I'm looking forward to it.
No, I was thinking, Abby, right before you brought that up, that I was thinking that too. I thought that the town itself, with its whole like 200 residents, I found myself really enjoying the town as a character of the story. The fact that they all like camped out and were watching as like the crime scene was being investigated, and Mo was like,
with
"Yeah,
picnic lunches.
We're just gonna deliver some lunches here because nobody's gonna come in today, but they all need to be fed because that's how we do." So all of that, like Abby, like you were saying, that small town feel I thought was really nice, and the town itself was such a character.
That was definitely one of my favorite parts. Oh, sorry.
But I thought this would make a fabulous musical. Or like a play. Like,
Yes,
I thought it would
please.
make, like, right? Like, I would go watch that. That would be such a cool thing because there's so many kid characters. Like, it would be really cool to adapt this for, like, and you would have to pull some of it out, I'm sure, but, like, the amount of action for the kids versus the adults, I think this would really be interesting for, like, a local theater kind of a thing.
I would also like it as like a cartoon, but like a Hey Arnold kind of like 15-minute vignettes where you're like meeting all these characters and something happens, but it's like a small, compact little arc, and it's mostly about how everyone interacts with each other.
Like when Stoop Kid's afraid to leave his stoop. Yep, exactly. Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that see, ironically, I think you should have had a harder time believing, like, the little town nuances, but the way they were written, I was, like, right on board. It's like in the very beginning, you know, when she was, like, when Mo was running the cafe, and she had, like, those random, like peanut butter, like, bologna and cold soup, because she can't touch the stove because Colonel said that's bad. And everyone just, like, went, like, it was just, like, totally, it was like, yeah, you know, give me the special, or give me the, you know, the peanut butter and, you know, the double peanut butter. That probably, I think, theoretically should have been harder to believe. I was there. Like, I was on board. I'd been like, yeah, give me some cold soup. Like, you know.
I mean, it's exaggerated, but stuff like that really does happen, especially, like, living currently in a small town. Crystal, you know, when our local independent coffee shop, their espresso machine broke, they, like, threw a fundraiser with, like, live music, and people were selling crafts and stuff. And so everyone came out because, like, everyone gets their coffee there and needed to make sure they were going to get another espresso machine. Like, that was, like, a big kind of town happening, I feel like.
Well, my town just had, this is, like, a true life thing, and I went and saw it, and I have a picture, a cow chip raffle. Like, it was, like, a real thing. I didn't even know what that was. I got there, and they're like, the cow chip raffle, and I'm trying to fake it till I make it. So I'm like, yeah, cow. I'm thinking raffle. In my mind, I think I'm thinking silent auction with, like, a cow mascot. Like, I didn't know. But, like, that was a real life thing. Stop laughing, guys. Like, it was a real thing. And I went, and I'm pretty sure all 7,500 people in this town were there. Like, I'm dead certain of it. And there was the cow, and it was independent. People were watching the cow, waiting for it to chip in their designated square. And, you know, and there was, like, a white elephant sale and, like, little horseshoe plat. Like, it was a real thing to raise money for folks for the library.
This is just to be absolutely clear for those of us who do not live in cow country. This was about cow poop. Like, this was a cow pooping, and it was, like, gambling about cow poop.
Yeah, it's actually, they had to get a license for it because it's actually for real gambling. So they spent 2 months buying squares. You buy, like, your squares for $20 a piece, and wherever the cow pooped, that person got, like, $500. And the cow chipped. Like, I just can't, like, that's what someone asked what a cow chip raffle was. They were just passing through. Like, they didn't live there. And I was like, well, when the cow chips in the square, and they were like, chips, I was like, you know.
I love that they asked you that question.
Yeah, and I'm just like, please. And I had to explain this. But it's like a small town, like, thing. Like, everybody came out to support the library because, you know, like, you know, we are small, and I guess, like, in an affluent, like, ish, but that doesn't mean that we get, like, some, we still have no money. I don't know. Like, I still can't buy all the books I want. So, but they all came out to support, and in a small town, you can do something like that. You can't do that in, like, Chicago, like, downtown, like, it's not a thing. I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. But, you know, or, like, Oakland, where I'm from. They don't do that there. So I don't know. I enjoyed reading it, and I believed it. I was there with the cold soup, the cold, almost organic soup. I don't know. It was endearing, and it was lovely, and I would visit. However you say that place. Yeah, practical.
Which I have a really tough time with recall with that kind of stuff, and listening to it, I think I had longer to digest the big jumps like that. So I would definitely recommend that first book as an audiobook, 110%. Does anybody have any closing thoughts? I think we need to end this on cow chipping. So thank you for watching. Thank you guys for participating. This has been super cool. We will probably be back in another month. Same bad time, same bad channel. Yeah.
Wait, who gets to pick the next book?
Oh,
we all liked it.
Who liked it the least? Do
Maybe
we want to
Kim.
just make?
Yeah, I liked it. You know, like I enjoyed it. I laughed. I cried. Well, I didn't cry, but you know, I laughed at the Colonel. But I guess I did like it the least. I don't know. I don't know. I like scary mysteries.
Can you pick a scary book for us next time? Because I don't read horror unless as part. Sorry, Abby. Abby seems upset about this.
Have you guys
Fine, I'll just have to, maybe I'll go read it at Crystal's. We can read it together.
All right. Well, are you guys? If that, then I can tell you. Even I know I typically don't want to pick a book that I've read, but I want to reread it. Have you guys read Skeleton Creek? Any of you?
Is it a teen book?
It's, you know what? No, I think this one would technically be middle grade.
Ooh.
Yeah, I know I don't normally pick those, but what I like about Skeleton Creek and what I'm really interested in talking to somebody about, but I can't find anyone who's read it, is it's a combination book and like website biz. So like you read the book and then like, you know, you're supposed to go to a website and type in a password and watch this video that corresponds with the book, and then the book picks up right after the video, which actually makes it scary because it ends on a video. So I'm very interested.
It's the best thing ever right now.
Yeah, so do you guys want to, and I would really like to reread it. So if you guys are okay with that, we can message Mylene, but that would be my pick. So
I'm in.
Yeah?
Motion
Skeleton
pass.
Creek. That is what I choose, and I'm trying to like look and see who wrote it so we can all make sure we have the right Skeleton Creek by moving very slowly. It's written by...
Jen, you're muted.
Oh, Patrick Carman. So that's Carman. So that's who wrote it. It's called Skeleton Creek. That's the first book. So
Beautiful. That's what our next book is going to be. So in about a month on a Sunday, we'll get back to you with a time and a date. Thank you for participating. Second round success. Bye.
Bye, world.